Okay, so this is soldering a butt joint, which is when you take a solder seam and they're coming together like this. All right, so what we're gonna do, this is specifically a ring. So for a ring, I'd like to use a third arm, set it up. I actually like to put it up a little bit higher. And we're gonna solder the inside of the seam and suck it through so that there's less of a solder blobbage on the front side, because some of you might have texture and we don't want all the solder to go into the texture. Okay, so first thing we need to have with us is we need to have our hard solder pre-cut, about 1/3 of a sprinkle. We need to get a solder pick next to us. We need a striker and some tweezers, and let's hope they work. All right, so first things first, if you forget things, hey, look at this, soldering steps right here. It tells you everything you need to do, even with a couple little tips right there by your side. And then this video will be there too. So we're gonna put some flux on our seam on the inside and the outside. And we like to do this just like a little glazed donut. We don't need a lot in there, just enough to keep the metal clean. When you're done with that, put it back where it goes, put the lid back on. Clean flux is good flux. And then we're gonna take 3 pieces of solder. Now, some of my solders are bigger in here because I gotta cut them up a little bit smaller because they were the ends. So I'm gonna use, I don't know if you can even see that, but that's a good piece to put in the middle. And I'm gonna put 3 pieces. And I really like to have a piece on each corner because that seems to be the hardest part or area to get it to go all the way across. Your solder seam, you need it to be one long line and you need to see it on the front side as well. I'm gonna put my lid back on my solder so somebody doesn't come over and knock it over. Okay, so my solder is not specifically where I want it to be, but I wanna show you how to move it when it's the right time. So when I solder this, I got a low torch right now, and I just wanna go around in a circle just to get that flux to bubble and not move the solder. Once the flux is clear, I can use my solder pick to move it right on top of the seam. So I wanna make sure I'm making this evenly hot on both sides of the seam. So once it starts to go black like that and the flux is clear, I can move my solder. Okay, now I'm gonna turn this up just a little bit. Keep heating it evenly, and when that flux goes clear, that's when you can move your solder if it has moved. I'm kind of lucky, it kind of stayed put. So when this flux goes clear and the metal is blackened, we're getting close to soldering temp, and then I'm gonna roast it like a marshmallow. So right about now, and then I'm gonna pretend I'm sewing it back and forth, and voila. And that is a butt joint solder seam for a ring.